What is up, guys? Fado82 coming at you with another edition of Rust Cribs. This footage is from the Rustopia US and EU servers, both of which are vanilla Rust servers on 1-week wipe cycles. What that means for this footage and for these bases is that these were constructed without any increased gather rates in Rust in its natural state, and they were put together in 1 week's time before players had to start all over again. So players had 1 week to build these bases, and getting us right off the bat here, we are looking at a community event that DOA put together on Rustopia. He always brings his A game when he puts these events together, and this was a bar or meeting place for players, and lots of interesting things happened here, lots of funny things happened here, and lots of violence happened there, as you can imagine in Rust. Before we get into the next base, guys, I just wanted to say that I apologize for the lack of uploads recently, and then the amount of bases in this video initially was intended to be much greater. I have a lot of footage that I keep on a laptop, that's my editing laptop, because it takes a lot of space to record this Rust footage. Believe it or not, I usually end up every week with hundreds of gigs of Rust footage that I record to make these videos, and I move them over to my laptop to edit, to store, and to make a long story short, the laptop got hit by lightning or had some type of a power surge, and it's fucked up beyond all repair. So I'm not going to bitch about it, but it felt like a kick to the nutsack, and I lost a lot of footage, a lot of raids that I was going to edit, and just a lot of stuff, and it definitely took the wind out of my sails, so I took a little time to breathe last week. So I'm back into it, and this is the footage I was able to recover and that I had on my main PC, but it wasn't all of it. And the best way to Fado's heart and to cheer him up is through a motherfucking water base, and I love this water base here. I'm not sure if this was from the Rustopia US or EU server because the footage got all mixed together, but it's absolutely beautiful, and the symmetry of it's nice, and this base I thought was really great because it integrates the landscape into the base itself. I always like that aesthetic touch when the two are integrated. And the trees were able to form here and provide a natural camouflage because they recently changed the way that the building radius works. It no longer affects the nodes and the trees, so they will now spawn around your base, and they can create cool juxtapositions like this where the trees are integrating with the base, and I really dig that. I really think it's cool. This gives that treetop aesthetic vibe to this base, and really that is something that I always like to see. You might notice this base has a build-up method in terms of getting into it, so it's a bit of a sky bridge to go into it, and that's something that is to take note of. Lots of bases are using this method now. They always have used similar methods, so they'll layer it up on the bottom, honeycomb it up very well, and then the sky bridge, which is very hard to replicate if you don't have building privilege, is going to be something they'll take down when they log off. So a very secure method, and that's a good takeaway when you're looking at these bases. You guys will probably spot them in some other bases as well. Again, this base was really awesome. Lots of members worked hard to put this together here. As you can see, there's a lot of beds there, but they prefer to sleep naked together in the floor down below. But great job on the base, and they definitely built in a high populated area because it was right by the dome. So anytime you build by a road or a monument, you're going to get a lot of action, and that's what you have to consider when you're building in Rust. Unlike the action of the monument area, this snow biome didn't get nearly as much foot traffic, but the players were no less paranoid, as you can see by the amount of high exterior stone walls they put into place here. The winter biome is a great place to build. It can sometimes be difficult to get resources out here, but it is a place that will give you some added protection, and it's a hostile environment both to live in and then to raid. It's good, guys, to take note of the environmental changes in Rust. So when you look at clouds or the different time of day, notice how it changes and obstructs vision. When you look at the clouds here, it really is hard to see the enormity of that base, but then as the clouds dissipate, you can see that there's lots of stuff going on there. So Rust is a game that does really simulate the real world in some ways very well in terms of the environmental effects. As we're moving on over here, we're taking a look at a cool base, I believe from the Rustopia EU server, if I remember correctly. But it's a design that this clan seems to use quite often, and it's a very effective design. Again, it has that build-up method, so again, guys, keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm sure you can spot it. And the amount of high exterior stone walls, again, is something that really does stand out. It's going to be really interesting to see how the experience system changes the pace of building, and that's going to be something that is probably going to be happening in a couple weeks when it hits the main server. So we have a pretty firm release date for that, and it is July the 7th, which is about 2.5 weeks away. So guys, that means Rust Cribs is probably going to be looking a bit different, and your building styles might be changing up. You're going to have to adapt to not having things like doors, pretty much right away, and it's going to be definitely a change. I've played around with it for a little bit, and I think you guys are going to notice that it does change the way that you build and might think about building. But this base is a beautiful design, and it is one that will be timeless if you can put the resources into it. The symmetry of this base, I think, is really stunning. Rust is a game in vanilla Rust where bases are often built to be very utilitarian, very functional, but the aesthetic of it's not always something that's important. If you could have just a big cube base, and have a huge elevator shaft going up the middle, that would be, and that was the most secure method. A lot of vanilla players would do that. So the ones that put into account what it must look like when you look at it and want that visual appeal really, are something of artists, because vanilla Rust, having a secure base and also a good looking base, it's hard to do. But these players have achieved that. It is a beautifully designed base. It's very able to be defended with those towers surrounding it, and the larger tower in the middle, which is the core of the base, which is surrounded by those high exterior stone walls, layers upon layers, and it's a really beautiful design. This water base, I believe, was a spiritual successor to the one before that I said cheered me up due to losing all that footage and destroying my computer. And again, it's no less beautiful, but a little bit different. We don't see that inner resource room exactly in this area. Instead, a large tower comes out of the middle of it, which probably makes it more combat effective and is better for defending it. So I believe this was the next iteration of that water-based design we saw earlier on. And if that's not the case, you guys can correct me in the comments. And that's something, guys, too, in this footage, I can't give credit when credit's due necessarily, because I wasn't able to keep track of who everyone was with these bases due to the deleted footage that I had. So please, guys, if you see your base in here, leave a comment below. And thank you so much for building these, beautiful achievements of Rust engineering. Hopefully the bases on the shore here, built in close proximity to that water base, are either owned by that clan or allies, because if they're not, it can be a very tricky situation. If neighbors aren't friendly, it will become a war waged with bolt action rifles for most of the seed if you have neighbors in firing distance. And that's something that really is sometimes a lot of fun, but can be annoying as well, especially if you don't want fire coming your way and you're just trying to build up your base. But getting on over here, we are looking at a base that looks absolutely evil. It looks like the Tower of Sauron or something out of the Lord of the Rings. Really nice design, very aesthetic in terms of the touch of it, very aesthetically pleasing rather. The symmetry is nice. It has the build-up method as well. Like everything else in the game, it's using the high exterior stone walls, but it has many different entrances which lead into the base, and they are uniform in many ways, but also different, which I can't reveal many secrets of the base, but it's a really wonderful design. Take a look at a compound right now, which is about mid-game Rust. It is a compound that's not really secure because, you have to get through basically a few walls and then you can get into the base there. So even though it looks like something that would be very secure, it is something that you need to keep progressing on. And it's really going to be something, guys, when that XP system hits, to see how quickly the bases develop, because I think the pacing is going to be a bit slower. There's a player over here at night preparing his dungeon, and a player here during the day who's looking at an absolutely massive loot room. Thankfully for him, that massive loot room is encased in a massive base as well as a very large amount of high exterior stone walls. And this, guys, is a testament to what teamwork in Rust can do. These players have it down to a science. They know how to use members effectively. Members start resource gathering, start building, have roles that are very clearly defined. And not to sound like a broken record, but that too is something that I think will be shaken up a little bit with the XP system, in that the way that members interact with the seed early on may be a little bit different than what they're used to, which is going to be something that's going to be really cool to play and also really cool to study in terms of the progression of Rust. Moving on over here, this is a cave base that also has a cool tower, dual tower system here, which comes out of one base. I thought it was a really cool method here to defend the cave base, and also one that looks really nice, so thought it was good stuff. Going on over here, we have a desert paradise, and this is a base that is one that is a design that is going to be very effective in terms of defending it. You can run up to the top of those slanted roof slopes, those roof tiles, and when you're up there, you can peek out over the edge of it, shoot, duck back down very quickly. The mobility of it, because it's that slanted tile, really allows you to traverse it very quickly, and that might be something that is changed in the future, but currently those can be used very defensively, and I encourage you to put those into your base designs. They can even be integrated into small base designs to make your early bases that much more effective. Last but not least, we have a base here by Beardcore. Beardcore put some really awesome base designs together, and he actually let us tour this base in depth, but I didn't have footage of the interior, but it was an awesome little island that he put together here. It had flank towers that were built on rocks surrounding an inner cave base, and again, one that was really built up on the outside of that cave, making it very formidable. It's a small, compact base design, but it really used every inch very effectively, and it was one of the most interesting cave base designs I've ever seen. So, winding it down here, guys, really hope you enjoy this episode of Rust Cribs. Again, it wasn't what I was intending due to the footage that I lost, but I did the best with what I had and hopefully honored you guys as best I could with the bases you put together. It should be a weekly thing going forward. As always, guys, Fado82, peace.